Hello and welcome to the Week 18 Start and Sit show for the IDP show. I'm your host, Jeff Pomazal, coming to you live remotely from beautiful Boston, Wisconsin. How are we all doing today? Flying the solo today. Jake is off winning Father of the Year once again, so hopefully I can help set you right in your Week 18 dilemmas. Hopefully we don't have any dilemmas this week that you won all your championships last week, so we'll get going here this morning. Not expecting a ton this morning with all of the championships hopefully being taking place last week. Week 18 is always an interesting week, especially with all of the games that don't mean anything. A lot of the starters that we counted on all season long were sitting or planning on sitting. We have a lot of players going on IR suddenly, and a lot of our rookies that we banked on early in the year are getting an opportunity to get a run. We saw Trenton Simpson last night have an awesome breakout game with Roquan Smith sitting, so maybe a little bit of a future glimpse of what we're going to get there. So got a couple questions kind of popping in here. Yeah, we sometimes we do have those weak matchups, so let's get them in and we'll make the best of them. So Office Depot is always a friend of the show. Thanking sure hit that like button. Thank you very much. We do have a couple games today that are pretty important. Got the Falcons and the Saints playing today at noon. Both teams, it's a must win. So any players that we have in the Falcons, Landman, Caden Ellis, those are definitely going to be guys that we're going to want to get into our lineups today. For the Saints, probably our normal cast of characters. We've got Carl Granderson. If we have him on the outside as a defensive end position, we're definitely going to want to have him in our lineups today. We got the big matchup tonight for the Bills and the Dolphins, firing up all of our regulars there. We have the Packers and the Bears. We had Rudy Ford going on IR, which opens the door fully for Mr. Owens to take over his role once again. So if that's a dilemma for you today. Devin Lloyd or TJ Edwards. Devin Lloyd has been extremely hot as of late. He's a player that's going to be really tough to sit. They have a must-win matchup versus Tennessee, and I expect that game to be a very run-heavy game with Tannehill back under center. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up Devin Lloyd over TJ Edwards. The Packers have not been a friendly team to opposing linebackers over the last few weeks, as they've been kind of airing it out just a little bit more frequently. So best of luck to you, LaBesta, in your Week 18 matchup. Other games that are going to be pretty important, like we just mentioned, the Jags in Tennessee. We just kind of highlighted that. That's a must-win for the Jags to advance into the playoffs. We have the Vikings in Detroit. Expecting Detroit to sit a couple of their players or have limited snaps for some of their players. The Vikings have to win this game and have to have some other things fall into place for them to get in. So I'm expecting them to deploy their normal characters, especially in the secondary with Cameron Bynum, who we've been very blessed with this year. Also, Josh Metellus would be a must start for me as well. Let's see who else we got here. The Steelers and Baltimore played yesterday. We have the Seahawks in Arizona. Arizona is probably in a sit everyone kind of mode today, just so they can try to get as good a draft pick as possible, something to play for, especially if the Packers lose, they have a chance to get into the playoffs. So interestingly, with the Seahawks, we have Jordan Brooks coming back this week, and so sends Devin Bush back to the bench. But Brooks isn't someone I'm super excited to play this week, just because he's been kind of limited this week in practice. He did get a full practice in the other day, but we've always seen those ankle injuries kind of flare back up. So he's someone I'm trying to avoid if possible. And then we also have the Bucks and the Panthers today in a must-win game for the Bucks to have any shot at the playoffs. So we do have some games that we're targeting this week, and then there are some games that with teams with nothing to play for. So these are definitely some avoid situations. We have the Ravens in Pittsburgh, obviously, yesterday. So kind of saw exactly what that looked like. So we have the Browns in Cincinnati. The Browns can't advance anymore into the playoffs or can't improve their playoff standings, and Cincinnati's eliminated. And we saw a lot of their players get the questionable tag going into this week. A lot of their offensive pieces, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins. So not expecting a lot of fireworks into that game. The Chiefs and the Chargers have nothing to play for as well. The Chiefs are locked up in their seed. They can't advance or improve at all. And the Chargers have been out basically since Herbert got injured. So, and then finally, the other game that teams with nothing to play for is the 49ers and the Rams. The 49ers are locked into their playoff spot. Probably not going to see many of their starters on offense or defense. Probably not going to see a lot of Fred Warner or Dre Greenlaw, which means probably a lot of Oren Burks if you're desperate to play there. And then for the Rams, it's going to be really tough to see a lot of their players. Ernest Jones might be a go, probably in their secondary. Fuller will probably definitely be a start for us. But other than that, those are games we're trying to avoid this week just because of the unknown going into that week 18 with nothing to play for. And we have a couple teams with that are in the playoffs, but definitely can improve their standings or eliminate a division foe. A couple of these games are interesting with the times. So we mentioned the Lions and the Vikings, they play at noon, which will kind of help dictate a little bit later games. Like if the Packers have more to play for, less to play for, how they're going to handle that situation. The biggest one is at 325 between the Cowboys and the Commanders. And then also at 325, we have the Eagles and the Giants. Now, if these games were at different times, that would definitely help us make better lineup decisions this week. But since they're both at the same time, the Cowboys need to win to stay ahead of the Eagles, and the Eagles need to win in case, for whatever reason, the Cowboys don't, so they can improve their playoff standings and also get that home field advantage. So if these games were at different times, that would definitely help us. But I also think that since they're at the same time, both teams are going to be kind of in it to win it, and they'll definitely be doing some scoreboard watching. So maybe the first half of the game, we're going to see a normal deployment of our studs. For the Cowboys, definitely going to roll out Micah Parsons. We're going to definitely roll out their secondary pieces like Wilson. And then for the Eagles, probably going to see a lot of Morrow to start this game. A lot of Reed Blankenship. Those kind of players are definitely going to be players that we're going to start this week, and hoping for at least a solid half in our Week 18 matchups. But we also have Buffalo and the Dolphins tonight is a big one. I think that a lot of football fans and also IDP fans will be kind of circling because of the matchups with that. Buffalo has to win to be in the playoffs, and if they don't, they're eliminated. So they'll have everything to play for. So it'll be all hands on deck for any of our Buffalo Bills players. So see if we got a couple questions here on our stack. Got a question here from Don. Happy New Year. Thanks for all the wonderful insight this past year. I wanted some insight on this last week of football. In my fantasy league championship this week, I have Jordan Hicks. Okay. So currently I have EJ Speed, Aljish Al-Shahir, Devin Lloyd, and Robert Spillane in my team. Some very solid options. However, Nate Landman, Nick Morrow, Chris Barnes, Kenneth Murray, and Jordan Brooks are on the waiver to pick up. Would you be interested in picking up any of those players for Speed, Shahir, Devin Lloyd, or Robert Spillane? Nate Landman's a great story, but I don't think he cracks the top four there of what you already have with Speed, Shahir, Lloyd, and Spillane. Morrow, like we said, we could maybe only see a half from him, so that's going to be one that I'm going to kind of shy away from. Chris Barnes is also a nice volume play in Arizona, but I don't think he's better than any of those options listed. Kenneth Murray's dealing with a shoulder injury, so he's going to be one to avoid. Also, the Chargers have 0 to play for, so there's no reason there. And we've kind of already mentioned Jordan Brooks with his ankle injury being someone to avoid. Let's see, a couple more here. Buda Baker or Jordan Battle. Buda Baker's gotten a little bit of press this week with his being nominated for the Pro Bowl, even though he has 0 statistical reason to be there over a lot of other players, especially Winfield from Tampa Bay. Um, I'm gonna Jordan Battle or Buda Baker. I'm gonna go with Jordan Battle in this one. I just think that Seattle is in a evaluation mode, and Cincinnati is going to be looking at what they have in Jordan Battle, getting him as many reps as possible to hopefully make him a future starter and stud in this league. So I'm gonna go Jordan Battle over Buda Baker this week. So I think that's it on that. Any other questions coming in? This has been a really fun experience to be able to chat every week with everyone, questions, um, just kind of go through the roster process with a lot of people and things like that. So very much appreciated all of you this season as well. So thank you for that. Kind of looking ahead to the offseason, the IDP show has a lot of great things coming up on deck. We've got a lot of new talent and on our roster going into next year, so that's going to make things really exciting for us. We'll of course be starting right away. We'll be looking at roster evaluations. We'll be looking at reviewing and checking out our own rankings from this year, kind of doing a little self-evaluation. But it will also be starting up with our combine preview, our rookie evaluations, and then of course once the draft hits, your IDP ideal draft spot locations, who are our top 12 draft positions and things like that. We'll have our combined rookie rankings coming out. So we'll have a lot of great content for everyone. The best, I'm newer to your channel, but do you have a new subscriber out for me? Oh, fantastic. That is fantastic to hear, my friend. Thank you for doing that. Yes, and just like our friend Office Depot is always making sure that you like, subscribe, follow along. Our philosophy at the IDP show is it's a 12-month process. There's no off season for us. So we are definitely going to be every month, every week, bringing out new content, rankings, articles, insight. There's always something over at the IDP show. So perfect. Was gonna guess that this week was gonna be just a little bit lighter with things, so didn't think we are gonna have too many questions this week. We had, like we had mentioned, there was a lot of players kind of going on IR this week, especially on the defensive side. We had Anthony Walker of the Cleveland Browns, which kind of might open things up a little bit for Sayon Takitaki as we go into the playoffs. Rudy Ford was kind of a surprise one for the Packers, which makes things much easier for Owens, like we had mentioned earlier. Gives him kind of full reign, makes him more fantasy viable for anybody that plays in some postseason IDP leagues. We have a number of players that are questionable going into this week. Players like Ernest Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie. Again, a lot of these teams are teams that have very little to play for. One that's going to be kind of questionable, it's going to be tough to gauge because it's late in the day, but is Javon Holland for the Miami Dolphins. He's questionable, trending towards not playing this week with that knee injury, but the Dolphins are in the playoffs, just don't have that spot locked up. So if that might just be a case of we'd rather get him healthy, have him for next week when we really need him, than force him to play this week and possibly injure him. Especially with that injury to Nick Chubb, that defense has definitely taken a hit this year. We have Jason Pinnock, also of the New York Giants, going on IR this week. So Dane Belton might be an option for you if you're in desperation mode at the secondary position. We mentioned Kenneth Murray already, has that shoulder injury, 0 to play for, more than likely not going to play. Isaiah McDuffie suffered that really weird neck injury for the Packers, who was playing for Devondre Campbell. So we might see a little Eric Wilson tonight versus the Bears. So if you're desperate at any linebacker position, that might be an option for you as well. Minkah Fitzpatrick obviously was ruled out yesterday, so that does you no good today. And that's kind of it as far as IDP relevant players. J.R. Brown for the San Francisco 49ers is out once again. So just kind of zip through here one more time, make sure I didn't miss any questions. Again, if you have questions later on throughout the day, if you want to just ask them on the YouTube page or over on Twitter, more than happy to help you out, give you some insight, hopefully get you that final push that you need to bring home that final championship for your season. So, all right. Jermaine Johnson over Quinnen Williams, I'm assuming. I am the hugest believer in Jermaine Johnson. He's just done it week in and week out. He has been one of those very athletic guys that have just been really learning the position. Quinnen Williams is someone who is a little more, has probably a safer floor, but not as high of a ceiling. And this week, I'm definitely rolling out Jermaine Johnson. We saw last week what he can do. A couple tackles in the open field. He had a interception that he returned for a touchdown on a very athletic play, and he honestly had a second touchdown fumble recovery that he returned for a touchdown, but the referees blew the whistle too soon. So Jermaine Johnson just offers so much more of a ceiling and such a high ceiling. So I'm gonna go with Jermaine Johnson easily over Quinnen Williams this week and probably every week. So thanks, LaBesta, for the question. Oh, you're very welcome. He's one of my favorite players. Oh, good. Now he's locked in. Perfect. Just make sure that we do well for you this week. So perfect stuff. All right. Well, that is probably going to wrap it up for this week. Again, we appreciate each and every one of you each and every week joining us. The season doesn't end today. It's just kind of tomorrow's the start of the next season. So please be sure to reach out. Follow us on Twitter. Be sure to visit the idpshow.com website. Literally, it will be updated every day with something new, content, articles, podcast. Join us on Spotify. There's something every day for every type of IDP league. So appreciate everything that you've all done for us this year, and have a wonderful day, and best of luck in your Week 18 championships.